Hey, happy Friday, everyone. This is Doug, and you're listening to Homestead Grown Live. It's the live radio show or live broadcast of the Homestead Grown community. And joining me shortly will be my wife, Maria. I think she's just connected. Hey, Maria.
Hey there.
Hey, welcome, welcome. So, um, tonight we're going to talk about the 12 days of the Homestead Grown Christmas. And so this should be kind of fun. The idea is what are 12 things that you could get, or 12 gifts that you could purchase for someone that is getting started on the Grow Model Food System journey. So we'll need to unpack that a little bit so that we put everything in proper context, and we'll get to that shortly. But before we do, a couple of quick announcements. I wanted to say, um, first, please subscribe, follow, and share the podcast. So if you are listening on Podbean and you're listening via the podcast, then please share the podcast. But please subscribe as well so that you don't miss any episodes. And then follow us on social media. So whatever social media is your favorite, you'll probably find the show under I Know Doug or at I Know Doug. And that is how you can follow us on social media. I especially would encourage you to follow us on Gab at I Know Doug as well. And it's probably where we're most active. And one of the things I like best about Gab is the fact that it truly is a free speech platform. There are some obnoxious people. There are some very obnoxious views that are expressed, but that's free speech, right? So I can ignore those. I'm an adult. I can block them myself. If you want to think for yourself, then Gab is where I think you want to be. If you want someone else to tell you what's safe to think and what you should think, then the other social medias are just fine. But and we're on them, but not as active as we are trying to be with Gab. So, and if you are on Gab and you would, please follow us there as well, and then share. Okay. Oh, I wanted to say a special thanks to Mike and Carol. Of course, Mike and Carol know who they are, but they have been they've supported this show and our efforts from the very beginning. So, just wanted to give a shout out to them and say thank you. Of course, if you're listening to the Podbean live episode, feel free to give us the love and click the little heart button so that we get those engagements as well. Okay. On the community front, we had a couple of new members join recently, so I want to say welcome to the members, and I also want to just say to everyone, pardon the dust. I've been making some changes in the navigation in the community, and I hope that things are settled now. But I also hope to announce the first cohort um, for the training, or I don't really want to call it training, but the coursework next Friday. So next Friday, I hope to have a solid date for when we will do the first cohort. Obviously, it won't be till the first of the year, but I want to give a real solid date as opposed to just kind of picking one out of the thin air. And as a reminder, or if this is the first time you're listening to the show, there's really four pillars to the Grow Model Food System, and so there are four pillars to the training as well. And those pillars are the plan. Pillar one is the plan, and this is where we really look at all of the modeling that's required in order to make sure that we are sourcing or producing as much of our own food as we are setting out to produce. So the plan allows you to say you're going to produce 5% of your food or 10%, or you're going to source and produce 5% or 10%. You'll build that into these models, and we'll walk you through the workbooks in order to kind of spit out the numbers on what you need to produce or source yourself. Keeping in mind that then you can scale. So you can use those models to scale as you get comfortable with whatever level you're at and you want to move forward, or maybe not comfortable, but maybe out of necessity. You can scale up or you can scale down. And the plan and the workbook and the models that are the deliverables of the plan will help you to do that. But then as we're talking about sourcing, that moves into pillar two. And sourcing is, hey, I can't do all this myself. and I'm not even going to plan to try to do all this myself, even if it's 10%. I can't even do the 10% myself, but I'll do 10%, but I'll source some of it from someplace else. And this is where we talk about hyper local economies. And the concept here is that we're producing that food, or we're sourcing that food from as close to our household as possible, including within our household. So more to come on that, or you can listen to the Hyper Local Economies podcast. I think it was podcast number 1 or 2. But that's what that pillar is. And then pillar 3 is actually the grow model gardening. So our preferred gardening method is the square foot gardening, and we will show how our models fit nicely with square foot gardening. And the pillar 3 is where we teach the square foot gardening method, specifically on how to execute your models within the context of the square foot gardening. And then pillar 4 is grow model animal husbandry, and it's the same concept: how to utilize your models to know what animals you would keep on your property or farm. And then the whole thing is wrapped around regularly scheduled, what I would call them as office hours sessions, where you can come and in a very casual way ask questions and have discussions with other folks that are in the cohort and myself, and we can arrive at unique responses to your situation. So anyway, if you're interested in that, now's the time to sign up for the community. There are 100 free founders memberships. We are a new community just getting started, so the first 100 folks to join will have a free lifetime membership, so long as you participate. And participation includes at least once a week post, or participation in a post. You don't need to write articles, you don't need to write blog posts, but the goal is for you to further your community members and helping them on their journey. So if you're posting regularly, then you'll maintain that free membership for life. So if you're interested in that, get out to community.homesteadgrown.org, community.homesteadgrown.org, and sign up and listen for next week, and we'll have a solid date for when that first cohort would start, and how you can sign up to be part of that first cohort. And looking forward to getting started. Looking forward to the new members. Okay, last piece, and then I'm going to turn this over to Maria, and Maria is going to, I don't know if I'd say MC or host the rest of the show, or at least to the end of before the last segment. And what I'm going to say is stay tuned to the end, because we posted 2 surveys. I think folks are going to find the results rather interesting. We posted 2 surveys this week, and the first question that we asked was, how often do you eat food that you've grown yourself? And the second was with a disclaimer here, or a qualifier, that for the purposes of this question, assume you have required resources and knowledge. So obviously someone who lives in a high-rise building, it would be difficult to answer this question, but we're going to assume for the moment that you do have the resources and knowledge needed. But how many hours per week are you willing to invest to produce 50% of your family's food? All right, so I think we're going to find both these answers really interesting, and we'll save those to the end of the episode. So with that, Maria, I'm going to turn it over to you. And I know that we talked about this, and I said I will not sing. Maybe I'll sing the first one, but you're welcome to sing if you'd like.
No, I'm going to start by doing a quick apology. If I sound a little nasally, it's because I am. We've been dealing with a bit of the cold and flu season here, and I have a case of the sniffles. So if I were to sing, I would totally sound flat. So I'll leave the singing to you, honey. But
hey, but before you take and start running with it, can I ask a question? Can you hear this music?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Are you going to sing for us to that?
No.
Or okay.
No.
All right.
No.
All right. So last week I sort of had this spontaneous crazy idea because one thing, as I'm the more novice of the pair here with homesteading, and I'm learning the ropes, I am becoming more and more aware of the gadgets and toys and um, tools and things that can make homesteading maybe a little bit more fun or easier or more interesting. And so, as we were doing the show last week, I got to thinking, I think it'd be really fun if Doug spent some time and kind of came up with a Christmas list of what are the 12, in his opinion, best uh, Christmas gifts for somebody that's trying to get started in homesteading. So, with that said, um, I don't know what he put on his list. And sadly, honey, you will get none of these unless you already have them, um, because I have already done your shopping. But maybe you put something on there that I already bought you. I hope that's the case because, you're not getting anything else.
Well, so they're all things we already have.
Ah,
Um,
okay. Well, good. Phew.
because again, the idea here is not the this was for to help folks get started, not take the next step, but just to get started. So
Oh,
these
good.
are kind of starter things. So then the first one
So
is, and I'll sing on. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna help bring that first one out. I was gonna say, are these in like a hierarchy? Like on the first day of Christmas, like this is the thing you cannot go without? And number two is this,
Uh,
or is it just a random list of 12?
well, the first thing is something you absolutely can't do without.
Okay, well, let's hear the
The,
very first thing that you absolutely can't do without. Hit it.
so, on the first
Yeah,
day of Christmas, my true love gave to me
that's
a
me.
free founders membership to the Homestead Grown community.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I didn't really give that to you
Yeah, so
though. I think you created that.
yeah, but for others, you can. If you know someone who's interested in learning to source and grow their own food, maybe they already have a small garden. They could be a master gardener for that matter. Um, there's still a lot that they're going to learn here, and as a group, we're going to learn and build out. And I think future groups will benefit from what we're doing. Um, so yeah, give the gift of membership. It's free, and again, so long as they're dedicated enough to stay engaged and participate, um, why not? So I think that's a great gift to give somebody. I
And
should
we
have
won't
had something
tell
where you
them.
could print it up and put it in a stocking or something.
Yeah, and we won't tell them it was free, although they might figure it out. But we don't want you to look like a cheapskate, but it's totally free. So go for it.
Yeah, I wouldn't lie. I'd say, hey, it's a free membership, but it's a free membership now, and I explained so that they recognize that there's value here. There's lots of value,
Yeah.
especially as we continue to grow.
All right. So the
But yeah, that's
second thing on your list is that slightly less as awesome as the first.
well, I don't think you're going to find anything on this list as awesome as the free founders
Okay.
membership.
Well, that makes
Um,
sense.
yeah. Now you could argue the rest of these we can argue about, and my hope is if folks are joining us live and you want to argue about which is which, then feel free to join in.
Yeah. And
So
if you have
uh,
any of these products as we talk about them, please share your information, your experience. If you have a favorite brand or favorite, or you have experience that would steer you away from the particular item, share that with us too, because we're all learning together.
yep, okay. So are you? Are we
I'm
ready to
ready.
go to number
I'm
two?
ready for number two.
So on the second day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a seed sowing dispenser.
Oh. We do
and a
have one of
free
those.
founders membership to the Homestead Grown community. Yes, we do. And so a seed sowing dispenser, if you're planting, if you're starting from seed, they will save you lots of frustration, and lots of cramped hands and lost seeds and all sorts of things. So,
Yeah, can
um,
I tell a quick story? I'll try
yeah,
and keep
sure.
it super quick. So, this past spring, I was planting lettuce in, my little seed trays. And actually, no, it was in the boxes in the greenhouse. And several of the kids wanted to help. And, lettuce seed, it's like so tiny. And like the helicopter mom in me was trying really hard to like not hover and just kind of let them do it, but I swear like half a packet of seeds would go into each hole. And it is what it is, because once it's in there you can't get them back out. So I wish I would have gotten that tool out. That would have saved us a lot of seed.
Yeah, yeah, and they they're pretty effective, right? I mean, they're not foolproof, but they're pretty effective.
It's much
They're
better than
inexpensive.
toddlers dumping by envelopes full.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That you can control how many seeds are lost, and what a good thing to have the kids getting engaged early on to the point that they could dump a whole thing of seeds. That means they're, you know, uh, Toby's what, 4, and uh,
Yeah,
but um, so I think it's a good thing for them, and but not just for them. Having a seed sowing dispenser for yourself makes it a lot easier to do, and
yeah,
they're cheap. Well, they're inexpensive. Well, they're both. They're cheap and inexpensive. There's no high quality, last a lifetime seed sowing dispenser. They're plastic. They're kind of an afterthought by a lot of the seed companies. I think they even give them away free sometimes. But I don't know. For under $10, you can get that. And by the way, everything on this list is pri- is something that you could probably purchase for someone. It's not over the top expensive. It's not going to break the bank. So $10, you could get somebody who's interested a seed sowing dispenser, and um, it makes it a lot easier to get started with seeds
and
or
you know
from
what goes
seed.
really great with a seed dispenser? A membership.
What's that? Yes, because we can help you know what to do with those seeds, right?
Right. All right, so we're on number 3, right?
Yes, number 3. So the
All
third
right,
day, not number 3. It's the third day of Christmas now.
3rd day of
And then
Christmas,
maybe if we
yes.
have time, you can tell the story of the 12 days of Christmas. But um, and if we're
Uh,
not prepared to tell the story, then maybe next week we can.
yeah.
Okay, so number 3. This is one that we have owned for, oh, 16 years, maybe 17 years. Um, and that is, can you guess? Something we've owned for
No.
17 years that you would
So
need in order to provide food for your family over the course of a year would be a vacuum sealer.
oh, yeah. That is a good one.
Yep.
That
So,
is a good
and our
one.
vacuum sealer is old and big, and um, today's vacuum sealers are small and again pretty inexpensive. I think you can get a vacuum sealer now for anywhere from $50 to $100, and they are well worth it if you prefer to freeze things. Right.
Yeah.
So, in meat, if you're not going to can your meat, but you prefer to freeze it, a vacuum sealer is you got to get one. There's no reason not to have one, right? Unless you're so well honed in your just in time processing that you are eating fresh meat all throughout the year. But if
Yep.
you're not, you're
You
putting it in
know
the freezer at all. Vacuum sealer.
you know what goes really well with a vacuum sealer and a seed dispenser?
Um, hmm. A free founders membership to the Homestead Grown community
Yes.
for first on here
Yes.
members only. Yeah, I like your thinking.
Yeah,
It
okay,
does.
so
It's like these all go together.
I know, it's crazy. Okay, so that puts us to the 4th day of Christmas?
The fourth day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a hydroponic kit. Now, I'm
Oh,
late to the hydroponic game, right?
yeah, but that's
Um,
cool
and the
stuff,
reason
man.
it is, and the reason I say a kit is because uh, it's a great way to learn, and it's a great way to get comfortable. If you're used to growing in dirt, which makes sense, um, switching to hydroponics feels a little weird, and it's a good way to get past the weirdness, or realize you're not going to get past the weirdness and just move on and don't even worry about it. But the ability to produce um, uh, hydroponically in your house um, during the off season is, uh, I think it's worth the experiment. And so we are using a hydroponic kit that we got for, I think the first one I purchased was like $59, and then the same exact unit I got for 44. So
How'd you
again,
get
not
it
terribly
cheaper?
expensive.
Just from a
Sorry.
different vendor, or
Well, same one. I think it was just a matter of, supply and demand. Maybe they had a whole bunch of them sitting around and they just lowered the price, and perfect timing, who knows. But I don't know if you'll get it for $44 now, but anyway, anywhere from 40 to 60, $70, I think you're going to find one of these kits. The one we
yeah,
have is an 8 pod kit. So they're bigger and they're smaller, but it works nice. One of the things that I wouldn't rely on these for a long period of time, because who knows how long the light system is going to last. And the engineering on it is good, is good in that the lighting is magnetically attached, so you could swap it out. But who knows if a year from now or 2 years, whenever those lights go bad, um, if that particular manufacturer is still producing or is producing replacement lights. But that's not the reason to get it. The reason to get it isn't because you're going to grow all of your food in these little kits. That's that's not the reason to get it. The reason to get it is just simply to get comfortable, because if you reach the point where you say, hey, this is viable for me, I am going to do this, then you'll want to build your own system. But knowing what the components are and how they function and all that good stuff is what you're really doing with this kit. uh,
yeah,
and then you can take it to the next level after that and make it more of a true production system as opposed to kind of a novelty.
right. All right, I was gonna try and remember 432, and I know one,
We'll
of
go.
course, but oh, I'm already blanking. It's not fair. I've
All right, I'll
had
give
like
you a hint. We've
4
owned
really bad
the
nights of sleep.
So on the third day of Christmas, we own that for about 16 years.
Oh, yeah, that's the vacuum sealer, definitely.
Vac- Vacuum sealer, there you go.
Okay.
And then on the second day of Christmas, the kids helped you out in the greenhouse.
Dispenser.
Okay.
Okay.
And then, of course, the most important thing,
The most important thing, the really awesome state of the art membership.
a, a free
Free
founders
membership.
membership.
Yes. But it's state of the
Yeah,
art.
it is state of the art,
It's
but
got
it
Xeneon
is.
technology.
It's got Xeneon technology. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. All right. So
Okay.
that brings us to the 6th day of
No,
Christmas?
no.
No, 5th.
We
5th day.
The
That's what
fifth
I
day.
said. You misheard
Yep.
me. Go ahead.
Yep. Okay, so the fifth day of Christmas, it depends on where you are and what the availability is, but the fifth day is getting pullets, chickens. And the reason I'm saying chickens and the reason I'm saying pullets is because as a beginner, you may not want to uh, be raising day old chicks. If you're up to that, open to that, great, go for it. They're cheaper, much cheaper, or I should say less expensive. But there's also a lot of there's more risk in that if you get a half a dozen birds, you may not have a half a dozen birds come spring. But if you get pullets, there's a good probability that you'll have laying birds by the time spring arrives, or even late winter. So chickens are the good source of protein, right? So eggs.
Yeah.
Most people like eggs. They're diverse. You can add them to many different dishes that are needed for different things. Nothing like making breakfast with eggs that were produced on in your own backyard.
So, how many
So,
pullets would you recommend somebody start with? Or it totally depends
but
on your situation?
Well, that's a great question, and that is one of the reasons that the free founders membership, or actually, I'll quit goofing around with that. It's one of the things that we do in the plan. Is it depends on how many people you're feeding. It depends on what is considered a serving for each person, right? So Maria, a serving for Silas may be very different than a serving for Joey, right? So,
Correct. Yep.
even though the technical serving size is still one, Joey's going to want two, and Silas is going to want three quarters. So it depends on how many people you're feeding, what percentages of serving for each person. Um,
Yep.
and then where we are in the cycle, and if you're going to use artificial light to keep them over winter to continue to produce, or if you're okay with the birds going natural and not producing as much in winter, and in some cases even not producing at all, and then you would have to compensate for the number of birds in order to still hit your target egg count. But so having said all that, the idea is this is would be a Christmas present, and I would think that we wouldn't want to burden someone with
Did
trying to
you
figure
just
all of that
say
out.
burden? Did you say burden?
Burden.
That's funny.
I
That was
did.
real funny.
Thank
Well
you.
played, honey. Well
Yeah.
played.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. So
Um,
that brings us to the sixth day.
are you rushing me?
Well, I mean,
Okay.
I
Nope.
mean, we
Nope.
got half of our days of Christmas to go.
Okay. All right. Sixth day.
Sixth day.
No. So sixth day of Christmas is a water bath canner. Um,
Ah, good one.
Yep. I don't think no matter what your plan is, I do not like a lot of canned foods, but there's always a place for a canner, and there's always a place for a water bath canner. So while I prefer um, my
Frozen.
vegetables to be frozen, there are still things that need to be canned, like well applesauce, for example, and
Yeah.
we water bath can our applesauce. So, and it's inexpensive. What you can get a canner kit for about I don't know $40 or $50.
Yeah. Well, can I up the ante on that one? I would
Sure.
say 2 water baths. Cause man, when you're making sauce and you have to like heat it up and process it for 20 minutes and then you have to get it hot again. If I had 2 that could be running, run 1 and then the other one's heating up and I could really crank through some canning, but a girl can dream. All right. You don't have to buy 2. At least not this year. Next year. Buy me a second one. That's all I'm saying. All right.
All right.
All right. Seventh day. Are we ready? Or
On
did you have
this,
more?
yeah, I'm ready. I'm
Okay.
ready. I'm ready. On the
Okay.
seventh day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a square foot garden template. Do you know what
Ooh,
I'm talking about?
I do.
You loved this thing.
I use that sucker all the time because I would have been lost without it. I really would have.
And it's so simple, but it's valuable and it's fairly inexpensive. I think you can get them um, for I don't know $30 probably if you go to Amazon. Although if you go to Etsy, there are people who make them out of wood, um, and I don't know. Again, hyper local. I like craft people. I'm not so sure that they're all craft people, and maybe they're buying hundreds of them from China and turning around and selling them as that they made them. But um, if you find one that's handmade, I think that's great, especially if it's someone that's local. But the whole concept here is that when you grow in a square foot garden, each square foot of a raised bed is its own plot. And so you can plant up to 16, uh, as few as one, and up to 16 in that square foot. So you're taking full advantage of all of the space that's in that plot. And what this square foot template does is it has 16 holes. It has 8 holes. It has 12 holes. It has 4 holes. But it has 16 holes, and it's color coded so that if you're planting something that's color coded green, and maybe that's the 4 per square foot, then you know where to put the seeds so that you make best use of the available
Yeah,
growing space.
you just use the little poker and it has lines on it to say how deep you're putting the seed, and it made everything so much easier and so much more you know, I'm not a OCD type person, but man, it was gratifying to look and just see everything when it was coming up. You knew that it wasn't a weed because it was in its hole.
So you nail that is so that's it's I'm glad to hear you say that because it's another one of the advantages of the square foot method is you don't have to guess if it's a weed. You can
Yeah,
you know the pattern and you can look at it and say you can get rid of those early weeds. It's a benefit. So I'm glad to hear you call that out.
yeah, for sure.
And it is gratifying to see everything uniformly growing
Yeah.
within. Yeah, and also being able to care for them, and we can get into other things at another time, but um, having them equally spaced and uniform will benefit daily care.
Yep.
Okay,
All
so
right, so
that's
that brings
that's
us to the eighth
yep.
day of Christmas.
Okay, so
What
on the
did your
eighth day of
true love bring
Christmas,
you?
my on the eighth day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a metal raised bed.
Ah,
Um, and this is where we could get into some controversy, right? This is where someone could argue um, against. Hey, Mike, I'm just now looking, and I'm seeing you're out there. So thanks for joining the show. And feel free, Mike, if you want to jump on and give us your thoughts. Be happy to hear them. Um, oh, uh, a raised bed
metal versus wood.
from a metal raised bed. Well, it doesn't have. I shouldn't say versus wood. Here's the thing, with wood, I don't like using treated wood, so I try to avoid treated wood. And even if you don't use treated wood, then it's only going to last a couple of years, because untreated wood sitting out in the open for a season, getting rained on and watered, and it's not going to last long. But
Well,
if you use metal, then it's going to last much longer. Now, there's still some concerns that I always have about, is there some kind of coating on the metal, and those sorts of things. So those are, everyone has to make up their own decisions. But the reason I put this in here is the raised bed gardening method is the method that we use for the grow model food system, and we just talked about the template, which is so important. Actually, having a raised bed is more important than the template because you can't use it unless you have the template or unless you have the bed. Um, you could get a 4 foot by 4 foot for $30. I think we got the 8 foot by 4 foots for 60. And if you tried to purchase the wood to do that, you're probably looking at $80 just for the wood. So it's probably less expensive and should last many more years. Did I go on too
yep.
long about that?
No, I don't think so. Nope.
Okay.
But um, I'm keeping an eye on the time also. And so I think we should probably move on to, we are actually at the 10th day. Is that right?
Ninth day. Ninth day.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry.
So, yep. So, and by the way, the time doesn't matter. I mean, we can go as long as we
Okay.
need to go. I mean, obviously, we don't want to bore people to death. So, but we can. There's no hard fast stop at 9:30. It's just been kind of what we've been doing. Um,
Okay.
okay, so number nine, and this is one that I think kids can get for someone who's, or anyone for that matter, is seed packets, or a gift certificate to something like a Seed Savers Exchange or the many heirloom open pollinated seed companies that there are. And if there's one near you, support your local company. But seeds are incredibly important to the whole process because without them, uh, you're buying your plants as starts, and chances are they're hybrid, and you can't save the seed, which is important to the this kind of closed loop system where we are starting from seed, we're growing, we're saving seeds from our better plants, and we're using those seeds to for the next year to start. So
Yeah. And the
seeds.
starts are crazy expensive. I mean, that's a huge investment every
The,
year.
the Well, it can be, but if you did the accounting and you factored what you get in return, assuming a normal loss due to pests and things, um, but if you had to buy that in the grocery store, in the end you're saving money. So
Yeah.
it's an investment. It shouldn't be looked at as a cost. It's an upfront cost that maybe would have been spread out throughout the year. But if you do it right, then you'll end up on the good side of the ledger at the end of the day.
Yep. Yep. All righty. So that does bring us to 10.
Okay, so 10. On the 10th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a pressure canner.
Ah,
And the reason that you have to have a pressure canner is most things in your garden will require a pressure canner, right? You can't water bath everything, and uh, it's very important that if it's something needs to be pressure canned, that it be pressure canned. Otherwise, you can make yourself sick. And as intimidating as a pressure canner can be, they're not once you get a little experience with them. But this is one of those that you can go the whole range in cost, right? If you go to Layman's and purchase one of the Amish pressure canners that you could put over an open fire, you could be looking at $600-800, but you don't need anything
yikes.
that expensive. Yeah, they can be crazy. But I think 100, 150, I think you get a decent pressure canner.
Yeah.
Probably even
Sounds,
less than that.
that sounds good. All right.
Are you all right on the 11th day of Christmas?
Are you ready for the 11th day? Do we need
Yep,
some build
I'm
up?
ready.
Because we're kind of getting close to the end. I feel
We are
like
getting
maybe
close
you
to the
should
end,
sing
and we haven't.
it.
Yeah, no more singing. If you missed my singing at the beginning, then you have to rewind. I'm I'm not gonna scare people off at this late hour.
Okay. All right. On the
Yep.
11th day of Christmas. All right.
My
11th day.
true love gave to me a chicken tractor with a nest box. So we got our chickens. And while they may not be ready to start laying eggs yet, we have to have them outside. Um, and so you need a chicken tractor. And the reason you need a chicken tractor is you want to make everything work for you, right? We need to be as efficient as we can be, and that includes working our soil and improving our soil, and not tearing up our yard. So if you have small acreage or you have no acreage and you have a tenth of an acre, let's say, um, if you have a stationary chickens, then you're gonna have a dirt patch soon, a hard dirt patch that when it rains is a mud patch. When it snows, it's a crusty, frozen mud patch, and all the rest of the time it's just hard dirt. But if you have a chicken tractor, then you move it every day. You'll see that your grass loves the fertilizer, and the chickens don't have enough time to tear it up. So a chicken tractor, and I'm throwing in nest box because you want to be able to easily harvest your eggs when your chickens start to lay. This is probably the most expensive thing that I had on the list. To build out a chicken tractor from wood is probably a couple $100, and to put a nest box, like a two-hole nest box, is probably another couple $100. So this would be the biggest item on the list.
Gotcha.
But but it should last you years and years and years and years. The nest box should last you virtually for the rest of your life. The chicken tractor itself, if made from wood, will eventually break down, but it should last you a good 10 years.
Does that mean that the 12th thing is like super expensive?
No,
Oh, okay.
no.
I didn't know if we
All right,
were
you going to
like
sing?
price.
Nope. Are you going to sing?
Oh, ooh, no.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So on the 12th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a gift card to a local nursery.
Ooh,
That
you
kind of right.
rhymed.
I did. I
That
did.
was
So
cute.
yeah. Now, if your local nursery is simply ordering from Stark Brothers, then it's up to you. You could order from Stark Brothers. Oh, it's up to you anyway. But in my view, if they're just ordering from Stark Brothers and they're marking the price up double, then I might go to Stark Brothers or wherever and get just order from the catalog. But hey, we want to support our neighbors and our hyper local economies, right? So as close as I can get, if there is a close nursery that sells fruit trees, then I would probably want to purchase from them. Or in this case, I'd want to get a gift card so that when it's spring, I could go get my fruit tree or fruit trees.
So
And
wait,
so
hold
the
on.
idea
Are you talking about a partridge in a pear tree, fruit tree, or no?
and you didn't even know this was on the list, and you're just
No, I did not. That's
uh,
why I'm
so
Maria the funny one.
the funny one. Yeah, good
Huh.
for you. Yes, it's a pear tree.
Okay.
No partridges in the pear tree, but a partridge might land in the pear tree, and then you've got a partridge in a pear tree.
Well, it's a pullet
But
in a pear tree.
there you go. But hey, getting started now, you're not going to get any fruit from these things for 3-4 years, but get started now, so that you 3 or 4 years from now will have fruit, and you'll be glad that you started. So that is the 12 days of Christmas. And all of these things were things that, if you are interested or you know someone who is interested in getting started sourcing or producing more or much or to some extent their own food, then these are things that they either should have, will have, or would want to have. And they would be good Christmas presents. And for the most part, they're fairly inexpensive. And by inexpensive, I mean $50 or less, except for the chicken tractor, which is probably $400 for the nest and the tractor.
Yep. Very
Is that a good
cool.
summary?
Yeah, I think you did a great
Hey,
job on the 12 days.
well, great. So I would be interested uh, if you didn't make it on to say what your thoughts were, which no one did. So, but feel free to put them in the comments of the show, put them in the comments of the podcast. That's always good. Or if you're a member or a founding member of the Homestead Grown community, then comment on the show to let us know what your ideas would be. Now, before we close out, I wanted to share the results of those two polls, and I thought this was interesting. So, in our first survey, how often do you eat food that you've grown yourself? 7%, and the options were daily, weekly, monthly, or never. And 7% of respondents said daily. I thought that was interesting. It's actually higher than I've expected it to be. I'd like it to be 80%, but 7% is a good start, right? And this was not the community members. This was on Gab. 16% are weekly, and 22% are monthly, and that left 55% is never. So 55% of folks don't grow or produce anything themselves, which is kind of what I would have expected. Daily shocked me. Monthly is interesting as well, but those are the numbers for growing yourself. Now, here's the one I thought was really fascinating. This survey question was, for the purposes of this question, assume you have the required resources and knowledge. How many hours per week are you willing to invest to produce 50% of your family's food? So the options were 0, I have no interest in producing any of my own food, to less than 5 hours, and 5 hours to 10 hours, and then 11 hours to 15 hours, and then 16 to 20 hours. 13% of respondents said, I have no interest in producing any of my own food. I'm not going to spend any time on it. The interesting thing is they do spend time on it. They just don't spend time on it directly. They spend time on it indirectly, right? So they've outsourced that to somebody else. And but 13% of them have no interest in doing so. 8% said they'd be willing to spend less than 5 hours. So don't think we can make that 8% happy. I don't think we can do this in less than 5 hours, but we'll see if any unique use cases or cases actually um, prove that it could be done. And then 5 to 10 hours is at 15%. So I think we're getting closer to where reality is in being able to produce 50% of the food. And then 8% said 11 to 15 hours they were willing. Here's the thing that got me. 57% of the people said they were willing to spend 16 to 20 hours. And I think this is right about what you would need in order to source, and produce 50% of your own food. 16 to 20 hours. Um, and I think 16 to 20 hours well spent hours. And by the way, those are hours that aren't necessarily everyone. If it's a husband and wife team, you could split that in half. Of course, you should probably be doing it together, so it's time spent together, which then it isn't really. It's an investment in the marriage as well as the food, right? But if you have kids that are old enough to actually help, then you could reduce. You could spread those hours out. Um, so anyway, any thoughts on that, Maria? What do you think on that? 57% of the people said that they would spend 16 to 20 hours.
Um, I'm curious if they have kids that they're going to assign 15 to 20 hours of chores. Because that's a lot of time. I mean, that's a good thing. Maybe they're retired. That's a lot of hours, though.
Yeah, well, it is. I mean, spread over a week, so that's
Yeah.
2 hours a day. It's not just gardening. That's if you're taking care of animals, if you're canning, if you're uh, dehydrating, if you're meal planning, if you're all the aspects of the food production process. But yeah, it but again, if it's done in the right way, it could be fun.
Yeah, for
It doesn't have
sure.
to be
I
doesn't have to
agree.
be a chore. Although a lot of times kids think getting up is a chore. Anyway, hey, thanks Mike and Carol for the thumbs up on the 12 Days of Christmas. Glad you enjoyed it. Again, appreciate your support. And I think that's all I have, Maria. Is there any closing thoughts, comments from you?
Um, n- nothing's coming to mind. I think I used all my good lines earlier. I really
Yeah.
did. I really banged a few good ones out, and now the well is dry.
All right. Well, until next Friday. So next Friday, 9 o'clock, we'll do this again. We look forward to doing the show again next week, and everyone have a great week between now and then. And we'll see you next week.
Good night, everybody.